Leo, something unexpected is heading your way this Wednesday, October 15th, and it's about to shift everything. This isn't just another horoscope. And this isn't just another Wednesday. It's a moment subtle on the surface, but spiritually precise underneath. If you've been feeling like something is stirring, even if you can't name it yet, you're not making that up. There's a reason you clicked this. There's a reason you're here. Maybe you've been waking up earlier than usual, sensing something's coming but unsure what. Or maybe it's the silence lately, the stillness before something real shows up. Either way, I want you to lean into that feeling instead of brushing it off. Because what's approaching isn't random. It's timed. It's personal. It's sacred. And this week, it's for you. Let's get real for a second. You've been holding a lot. You show up strong. You keep it together. You've been the steady one for others more times than you can count. But even the lion gets tired. Even the light needs rest. And when the universe decides to return something to you, not because you fought for it, but because you were ready, it doesn't need fireworks. It just needs your attention. Astrologically, October 15th is a doorway. The moon in Gemini opens the space for messages to reach you. Venus in Virgo trining Uranus in Taurus adds the Surpriseian offer, a truth, a shift you weren't expecting, but deeply needed. Your fifth house, the space that rules your joy, your creative fire, your love, gets a pulse of energy. Something that felt dull might suddenly flicker to life again. From a spiritual lens, this isn't a test. It's a realignment. And here's the twist: it won't come loudly. It won't demand. It will arrive gently: an email, a conversation, a new perspective that flips a switch. You might even overlook it if you're too distracted. So I'm asking you to be present this week. Slow down for a moment. Breathe a little deeper. Watch what shows up around you. Because Wednesday doesn't need to be loud to be life-changing. The number code for this date, October 15th, 2025, adds up to 7 in numerology. 7 is about spiritual awakening, inner clarity, divine timing. Not hustle. Not pressure. Just showing up, clear and open. And when you add the power of 888 to that, the number of return, abundance, and infinite flow, you've got a serious energetic alignment. So, if something inside you feels like it's waking up again, you're not imagining it. And if you've been asking for a sign, this is it. Now I want to hear from you. Don't just watch this passively. Comment below and write, "I'm ready 888." Speak it like a declaration, not a maybe. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It just needs to be honest. Let that comment be your anchor. Let it mark the moment where everything inside you finally said yes. And before we keep going, I want to take a second to thank you. Seriously. Your presence here matters. Every comment, every like, every moment of attention you give to this space is what keeps it alive. You are part of something bigger just by being here. So don't go anywhere. What the universe is about to reveal might just be the confirmation you didn't know you were waiting for. And trust me, you'll want to see this all the way through. Now, tell me in the comments what brought you here today. What part of you knew it was time to listen? Let's find out together what's trying to meet you. There's something about October 15th that doesn't feel random. If you've ever walked into a day and felt, without any outer confirmation, that the air carried a different kind of weight, then you already understand the kind of energy I'm speaking about. This isn't about predicting events with pinpoint accuracy. It's about reading the rhythm of what's quietly aligning beneath the surface. Because the truth is, the universe doesn't always shout when it's moving. Sometimes, it speaks in whispers through feelings, subtle nudges, or conversations that change the way you see something forever. On this particular Wednesday, the moon will be in Gemini. And if you followed astrology for a while or even just listened to your own body, you'll know that a Gemini moon tends to stir up messages. Conversations happen. Thoughts become louder. Things unsaid start to find their voice. But it's not just about communication for the sake of talking. It's about information coming to light that shifts your direction. This is the kind of lunar energy that opens your eyes to something you hadn't fully seen before. And that clarity can come from the simplest places: an old friend's message, a podcast you randomly click, a sentence someone says in passing that lands too deeply to ignore. These are not accidents. They are alignments. At the same time, Venus, the planet that governs love, beauty, pleasure, and value, is forming a flowing trine with Uranus, the planet of disruption, change, and sudden awakenings. Now, when you hear disruption, don't panic. This is not chaos. This is graceful redirection. It's a shift that doesn't shake the ground beneath you, it simply changes the path you thought you were walking on. And for Leo, this moment doesn't land in some impersonal corner of your chart. It touches your fifth house, the house of passion, joy, creativity, and the purest forms of self-expression. If there's a part of your life that's felt dull, uninspired, or even numb, this alignment may light a fire in that very space. Maybe you haven't laughed in a while. Maybe love has felt like a duty more than a desire. Maybe your creativity has been buried beneath obligations. This energy doesn't just suggest that you should wake those parts up, it creates the inner conditions that allow them to wake up on their own. But for any energy to truly move through you, you must first pause long enough to notice it. That's where your choice comes in. You don't need to chase this shift. You only need to meet it. What's about to come isn't necessarily new, it's familiar in the deepest way. It's something you've been quietly calling back to yourself, maybe without even knowing. An invitation, a spark, a second chance. And it will feel more like a memory than a surprise. Sometimes, what we call fate is just the return of a truth we once walked away from. So I invite you to ask yourself, if tomorrow really was a new beginning, what would you choose to start with? What conversation would you finally have? What idea would you let yourself believe in again? What would you let go of, not because it's broken, but because it's no longer yours to carry? Write it down. Say it aloud. Or simply place it in the comments section below as a quiet agreement with the universe. Add the number 888, an ancient symbol of infinite flow, energetic return, and divine timing. Not because it's magic, but because your willingness to declare something shifts your frequency. This moment isn't about dramatic change. It's about intentional openness. It's about letting life meet you where you are, ready, soft, aware. If you've been praying for clarity, consider this a moment of answered prayer. Not from above, but from within. Because the voice of God isn't always thunder. Sometimes it's the part of you that whispers, "You don't have to live this way anymore." And sometimes, that's where the miracle begins. Sometimes we wait for change to come crashing in like thunder, expecting the sky to split open with some dramatic revelation. But more often, real transformation arrives in quiet disguise. It shows up in small decisions, fleeting conversations, a pause that feels heavier than usual, or a single sentence that won't leave your mind. That's the nature of October 15th. It may look like a regular Wednesday, but energetically, it holds a turning point. And when we turn to the tarot to understand what's unfolding, two cards speak louder than the rest, the Tower and the Star. Now, the Tower tends to get a bad reputation. People hear that name and brace for chaos, for destruction. But that's a misunderstanding of its true role. The Tower doesn't destroy, it breaks down what no longer serves you. It removes the false safety nets, the outdated beliefs, the structures you've outgrown but still cling to. Not because you're weak, but because you're evolving. And evolution doesn't always ask for permission. Picture a tree that's outgrown its pot. At first, the roots press quietly against the edges, seeking space. Then, one day, the pressure becomes too much and the container cracks. That's not ruin. That's release. That's the Tower. What breaks on the outside is often a reflection of something that's been growing far too long on the inside. For many Leos, this shift may show up in a way that doesn't seem monumental at first. Maybe you finally admit you're done with a job you've been tolerating. Maybe a friendship that's been draining you naturally fades. Maybe someone says something that helps you see yourself clearly for the first time in months. It's not about the size of the moment, it's about the power it activates. And this is where the Star steps in. Because what the Tower removes, the Star heals. It's the card that follows the breakdown, offering not just hope, but clarity. Not the kind of blind hope that avoids the hard truths, but the kind that rises from them. The Star doesn't ask you to chase the light, it reminds you that the light has always been inside you. It's the soft illumination after the storm, the part of you that still believes something beautiful can begin again, even if you've lost before. When the Tower and the Star appear together, they create a cycle. One clears. One renews. One dismantles. One rebuilds. This isn't about losing control, it's about finally being free from what was controlling you. So if something breaks open around this time, in panic, pause. Breathe. Pay attention. That unexpected conversation, that sudden closure, that strange sense of relief after letting something go, it might just be your soul stepping through a new doorway. One you didn't even realize was locked. You don't need to have a full plan. You don't need to figure everything out at once. All that's being asked of you right now is honesty. Honesty with yourself. What no longer feels like it fits? What have you outgrown emotionally, creatively, spiritually? What have you been holding on to just because it's familiar, not because it's right? Let this be the moment you stop trying to rebuild the old tower. Let this be the season where you let the light of your own clarity guide the way forward. And if you felt exhausted lately, if you've been carrying more than your share, consider this. Maybe you've been trying to hold up something that was never meant to stay standing. Maybe the collapse isn't punishment. Maybe it's permission. Now ask yourself, if the old version of your story were truly complete, what would you be free to begin? Speak it. Write it. Or simply feel it. And if you're ready to mark this shift, leave a comment with, "I'm ready 888." Let that be your quiet commitment to step into what's next, not with fear, but with trust in what's being made new. When you start paying attention to the dates that tug at your energy, really paying attention, you realize that some days don't just pass through the calendar. They speak. They carry weight. October 15th, 2025 is one of those days. And not because something loud is scheduled, but because the math of the day, the vibration hidden inside the numbers, tells a deeper story. This is where numerology steps in, not as a prediction tool, but as a mirror for the frequency you're about to walk into. If you add the digits of October 15th, 2025 together, you get 1 plus 5 plus 1 plus 0 plus 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 5, which equals 16. Reduce that further 1 plus 6 and you get 7. Now, if you've worked with numerology before, or even just reflected on certain patterns in your life, you'll know that 7 is not a casual number. It's the number of spiritual reflection, of truth beneath the surface. It invites pause, not rush. It doesn't care much for appearance, it wants meaning. This is the number of insight, of looking back so you can choose better moving forward. It's the moment when the noise fades and something quiet inside says, this is the lesson. This is the shift. 7 tends to show up when you're on the edge of understanding something you've felt for a long time but couldn't quite name. It doesn't necessarily hand you the answer, it just turns the light on in a room you didn't realize you had the key to. And for many Leos, this number arrives as a reminder that what you're sensing isn't wishful thinking. It's the next chapter calling. Not loudly, but clearly. Now layered onto that is the energy of 888, something that's shown up repeatedly in spiritual and energetic work across cultures. 888 is like a current. It pulses with momentum, flow, and the energy of return. Think of it like a cosmic boomerang. Whatever you've invested emotionally, energetically, financially, 888 is the echo of that returning. Not always in the form you expect, but in the form that matches your frequency. You don't need to be perfect to receive it. You just need to be open, honest, and aligned. 888 speaks to cycles, the ending of one, the rising of another. It governs harvests, patterns, and the silent contracts we've made with our higher self, the ones where we promise to show up, even if we had to crawl. That's why this number isn't just symbolic. It's vibrational. When you write it, say it, or even think it while rooted in intention, you're syncing yourself with a deeper rhythm. That's why I often suggest to those listening, don't let the moment pass quietly. Mark it. Claim it. Write a simple affirmation in the comments like, I'm ready to receive what's mine, 888. Not for me. Not for anyone watching. For you. For your own clarity. For the moment your future self might look back on and say, that was the day I stopped waiting and started aligning. Numbers, like emotions, carry weight when you give them meaning. And today, you're being handed one of the most powerful tools of energetic alignment there is, conscious agreement. A moment of real-time resonance between your desire and your willingness. Not the pushy kind of wanting. The steady kind that says, I'm here. I've done my part. I'm ready for the return. Whatever you choose to call in peace, opportunity, clarity, love, trust that if it's aligned with your truth, it's already making its way toward you. That's how frequency works. That's how energy moves. Not in straight lines, but in circles. And 888 is the shape of return. All that's left is for you to step into the space that was always meant to receive it. The truth is, change rarely starts on the outside. It usually begins somewhere quiet, somewhere inside you, in the places most people can't see. And what we often call destiny doesn't just fall into our laps. It's something we meet halfway when we're finally ready to make room for it. That's why this moment, this specific energy around October 15th isn't just about what might happen to you. It's about how you choose to show up for it. Because if we're honest, a lot of us are walking around with one foot in the past and the other hesitating to step into what's next. There's something profoundly healing about taking intentional steps, not dramatic ones, just honest ones. That's what this phase is asking of you. To pause, tune in, and reset from the inside out. One of the simplest but most effective ways to ground yourself is through breath. Not just the kind you take automatically, but the kind you actually feel. I often recommend what's called the 4-4-4-4 breath. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and pause for 4. Try it for 3 minutes the morning of October 15th, don't rush through it. Let each breath clear space. Think of it like clearing clutter from a room you didn't realize you'd filled with things you don't need anymore. And once you've found a little stillness in your body, try putting pen to paper. Write down 3 things you're willing to let go of. They don't have to be big. Maybe it's a habit, maybe it's a resentment, maybe it's a fear you've been carrying like armor. Then write 3 things you're ready to receive. Joy, clarity, support, opportunity, whatever's been knocking but you haven't quite let in. This act alone can shift your entire emotional frequency. It's not magic, it's energy responding to clarity. From a health perspective, your body will also be more responsive to subtle energies that day. You may feel more sensitive, both emotionally and physically. That's why it helps to keep things gentle. Avoid heavy, processed sugars if you can. They can spike your nervous system at a time when you need grounding. Instead, support your body with something calming and nourishing. Herbal teas like chamomile or tulsi, warm water with honey and turmeric, or a spoonful of maca powder in a smoothie can make a difference. You're not trying to change your entire diet overnight. You're simply choosing to support the version of you that's showing up with more intention. Now let's talk work. If things have been feeling stagnant, like you're doing a lot but going nowhere, this energy is nudging you to pause, not to quit, but to listen. Sometimes we mistake burnout for failure, when really, it's a call to recalibrate. If you feel like you've been pushing too hard or running on empty, this is the moment to stop and ask, is the direction I'm heading still aligned with who I'm becoming? In finances, I know it can feel counterintuitive to plan when you're unsure of the future. But planning isn't about control, it's about signaling readiness. When you map out even a basic financial vision, not from fear, but from intention, you shift your frequency. And when you shift your frequency, money starts finding its way to you. Not as a miracle, but as a response. And finally, love. Don't be surprised if an old connection resurfaces, or if a wave of emotion catches you off guard. This is heart energy clearing space. It may show up through a message from someone you thought had forgotten you. Or it may come as a realization that it's time to forgive, not for them, but for you. Let it happen. Let it be gentle. Sometimes the most powerful healing comes not from confrontation, but from quiet acceptance. You don't need to force anything this week. You just need to meet what's trying to rise in you. one breath at a time. One choice at a time. And if you feel even the slightest shift as you read this, don't ignore it. Let it guide you. Let it open something new. Color is a language. Not the kind we speak, but the kind we feel, quiet, immediate, and deeply tied to memory, emotion, and frequency. That's why when we talk about aligning with a specific day like October 15th, we can't overlook the role of color. It's one of the simplest, most accessible ways to tune into the energy around you without needing to explain anything to anyone. You don't have to believe in color therapy to feel how a soft blue calms you, or how a warm gold brings you back to yourself. That's not abstract, it's biology and vibration meeting in real time. For Leo, a sign ruled by the sun and fueled by expression, passion, and presence, the colors that carry the most resonance on this day are champagne gold and turquoise. These aren't just pretty shades, they hold symbolic weight. Champagne gold mirrors the solar energy you naturally carry. It represents confidence, value, worthiness, and visibility, not the loud kind of visibility that seeks attention, but the kind that quietly radiates assurance. When you wear or surround yourself with this color, you're not just making a style choice. You're anchoring your own belief that you are worthy of receiving. And that belief shifts how energy responds to you. Turquoise, on the other hand, brings balance. It cools the fire without extinguishing it. It softens intensity into clarity. This shade is especially powerful when you need to express something from the heart but don't want your emotions to overwhelm the message. On a day where communication, insight, and emotional vulnerability may rise, turquoise helps you stay open without unraveling. It's the color of truthful expression with a calm edge. This might sound subtle, but subtle is where energy does its deepest work. I often tell clients, you don't have to make a big ritual out of this. Just choose one of these colors in a way that feels natural to you. Maybe you wear a scarf. Maybe it's a bracelet. Maybe you carry a small piece of fabric in your pocket. Or maybe you place a colored crystal or object near your workspace or altar. What matters isn't how noticeable it is, it's how intentional it is. When you choose a color with awareness, you're saying to the universe, I'm not just waiting. I'm participating. If you want to take that intention further, here's a small practice you can try. On the morning of October 15th, write down a simple affirmation on a piece of gold or yellow tone paper. The paper doesn't have to be fancy, what matters is the message. Keep it short. Direct. Something like, I open my heart to the unexpected good arriving for me today. I am ready. Then place a small object you love, something with personal meaning, in top of the paper. A ring, a stone, a handwritten note, anything that reminds you of who you are when you feel most alive. Pause. Read the affirmation out loud. Feel it not in your head, but in your chest. Let it settle in. That's it. That's enough. You don't have to meditate for an hour or light 20 candles. Energy work isn't about performance, it's about presence. This ritual isn't to make something happen. It's to remind you that something is already happening and you're choosing to align with it instead of resist it. Rituals like this don't guarantee outcomes. But they do change how you meet the moment. They ground you. They shift your nervous system. They turn wishful thinking into a quiet kind of certainty. And sometimes, that's all it takes for a door to open, not outside you, but inside you. Because when your inner world shifts, the rest of your life tends to follow. So choose your color. Set your tone. And meet this day with the steady knowing that you were never waiting, you were always preparing. You made it here not by accident, but because something inside you was already searching for a shift. October 15th isn't just a date. It's an opening. A breath in the fabric of your timeline where the old releases its grip and the new quietly asks to be welcomed. And maybe, just maybe, this time you're ready, not because life is suddenly perfect, but because you're done pretending you need to be. You don't have to push. You don't have to chase. The universe doesn't respond to noisy, it responds to resonance. And everything we've explored together today, from energy to intention, from breath to belief, is guiding you back to your own frequency. The one that doesn't need approval. The one that already holds everything you've been asking for. The truth is, most people wait their entire lives for some big sign, some dramatic confirmation that it's their time. But what if I told you? You've already received it? Maybe this video was your sign. Maybe this message is the knock on the door you didn't expect. And maybe if you're quiet enough you'll hear what it's whispering. It's happening. Not to you. Through you. So let me ask you, heart to heart, are you ready? If what you've been praying for, hoping for, quietly preparing for without even realizing it, showed up this Wednesday, would you open the door? Would you let it in? Or would you question if you deserve it? What if you stopped doubting? Just for today. What if you chose to believe that everything you've walked through, every pause, every letdown, every lesson wasn't punishment, but preparation? What if this is the moment you stop waiting and start aligning? Comment below and tell me, what is it that you believe is coming for you? Declare it. One sentence. One truth. And write 888 beside it. That number isn't just for luck. It's an energetic signal. It's a declaration to the universe that you're ready for the return, the realignment, the renewal. Because when you speak it, when you type it, when you own it, everything begins to shift. You don't need to be fixed. You don't need to be more. You don't even need to understand how it all unfolds. You just need to show up. And you did. That, in itself, is a kind of magic. The kind that doesn't need spotlights. The kind that lives in quiet choices. Thank you truly for being here with me, for trusting your own timing, and for letting eternal mindfulness be part of your journey. Every like, every share, every comment fuels this space and helps bring these messages to the souls who need them. Your energy is felt more deeply than you know. So if this resonated, if it stirred something in you, don't forget to subscribe and stay connected. There's more unfolding and I'd love to walk that path with you. And when the surprise finds you this October 15th, and it will pause. Breathe. Smile. You're not lost. You're not late. You're right on time. This isn't just the day something finds you. This is the day you remember who you really are. With love, clarity, and grounded light from eternal mindfulness.